You know, I am genuinely surprised that Tokyo Revenger seems to surprise me even more, considering the fact that it's not holding back on the stuff that it's going through. Like, we're getting into some darker stuff, especially related to the future side of things. But let's start from the beginning, where we have Draken addressing the whole situation about how basically Tenjinku kind of pulled a fast one on them and beat up a bunch of their guys. We have Tomon basically trying to gather who the hell is this Tenjinku gang, which they start to puzzle that it is the S62 generation, one of the most deadliest groups. So this puts into perspective that, yeah, Takamichi has his hands full with trying to stop Tenjinku from corrupting Tomon, and destroying it as well. So we get a talk between Takamichi and Chifuyu. One of the most key things before this, though, is that Takamichi thinks about who could be working with Kisaki. Recall that last episode I mentioned Takamichi and Kakucho's talk was completely different in the sense that he wants Takamichi to save Izana. This will be important for this episode, but for this case, because that conversation was now, there's a traitor, obviously Takamichi has to now think, well, who could be working with Kisaki? But Chifuyu basically convinces Takamichi that he should probably go to the future and try to gain more information. That way they have a better idea of what exactly they're dealing with. So he does just that. He goes and speaks with Hina first because she appears, and it's a wholesome scene before showing that he time traveled back to the future, getting an idea that there's something off about this timeline. Izana was nowhere near Tomon in the previous ones, since the first one was quite literally just Mikey and Kisaki. Then you have the whole thing with Valhalla, which I guess is the same thing, with just Draken in jail this time and facing, well, death. And then the next one being with the Black Dragon having teamed up with Tomon, and all under the Tomon banner. And now this time we have Izana, the third leader of Tomon, which is a genuine problem. Because Izana was once Black Dragon's leader, this obviously inspires Takamichi to go speak with the one person he knows that has connections with the Black Dragon, Taiju. And my dude, you lost gains. I will give you that. What happened? Anyway, so we have an interesting thing that Taiju, because of his whole debt with Takamichi, is willing to trade informations. He doesn't like working with the police. I mean, who doesn't? But this is one of the rare times where it's like, we need to share intel. So this is where they learn about Izana. He was the 8th generation's Black Dragon leader, and the one that corrupted the Black Dragons before the 9th generation. This guy came in and got completely his ass whooped by Mikey. And then obviously Taiju being the 10th. We have during this conversation a history lesson of the Black Dragon, that Mikey's older brother was the first generation Black Dragon leader. And eventually this conversation about Izana, Tomon, and Kisaki ends when Coco and Inupe basically crash the party. Basically have to force that conversation to be cut short, with Taiju stalling for time, allowing Takamichi and Naota to escape. Now, the only benefit that this whole conversation came is that it definitely enforces the Kanto incident is something that causes Tomon to get corrupted because Tenjinku defeated them. As well as an interesting fact that Taiju puts out, Mikey trusts Izana more than Draken, which is very alarming. But as they're basically leaving, Takamichi doesn't want to leave Taiju behind, and also he thinks, well, he probably could question Inupe and Coco, but just as he's going back to try to help Taiju, he has a gun pointed to his face by none other than Kisaki. So just as our crybaby hero is about to meet his end, he is saved by Naoto. He literally sacrifices himself, gets shot, and then obviously Izana is not happy since, well, the one who murdered Mikey, Naoto, was his kill. So he basically tells Kakucho to end Takamichi's life. Now, here's the thing. It's interesting that during the confrontation we have Kakucho slightly hesitate as when Takamichi uses the nickname he has for Kakucho. And that he does pause for a second. So there is some care, however, as Kakucho said in the past, that Izana was his hero now. By this point, I mean, Takamichi is nowhere near as important, if at all. Maybe just a hint of just a regret of killing your childhood friend. But, I mean, it was going to happen either way. Takamichi was just in no position to be saved at that point. So he gets shot, and just as Naoto and Takamichi are about to die, they have one more handshake. Now, Takamichi's obviously breaking down because fucking hell, he's shot, he's dying, and he failed. And if he died there, well, the future is fucked. It is in the worst timeline. But Naoto, like, he never believed in Takamichi at first, but after witnessing how much of a badass he can be by keep going, not stopping, even when the future keeps going to shit, it made Naoto realize that yes, Hina saw something in Takamichi, something that he sees now, a determined hero of sorts. So he puts his fate in one last handshake for the two, basically leaving it off in a cliffhanger of Takamichi going back in time and basically this time having no chance of going back. But there was something I want to point out before we end this review. It's that the same thing I had pointed out a little earlier. Kakucho telling Takamichi in the manga to save Izana. That one's not there. And in the anime version, in my opinion, it makes Izana look like just complete pure evil, and Kakucho for some reason is following him no matter what. While in the manga, I feel like this version of events is, unfortunately, Izana was not saved, just as Mikey wasn't saved and became corrupted. So we have Izana just even more corrupted than he was in the past, making it even more tragic. But that's my interpretation of things. Anyway, this is Green Lawrence 1 signing out. Hope you all like this review, and I will talk to y'all later.